All right. I'm very excited today. This is actually my first episode of Automation Nation, the season of golf. And Troy Newport gets to be the first person that I bring on for Automation Nation, the season of golf. So, Troy, there's a reason I brought you on. You're general manager at Cog Hill, which is a huge club right here in my state where we're located in Illinois, in Chicago. It's one of the largest, or is the largest public golf facility in the Midwest, 72 holes of golf, right?
Correct.
About that.
Yes. Yep.
And you also have 42 heated top tracer bays. But, that's just kind of the surface. What was like, man, I've really got to get Troy on the show. But why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and kind of tell us, what got you into the game of golf, and then tell us a little bit more about your club.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate that. And anytime we get to talk about, as I mentioned to you earlier, get to talk about golf, it's a lot of fun for us. So I'm the general manager at Cog Hill Golf and Country Club. As you mentioned, it's a large public golf facility. Sometimes people get that a little confused, and it says Golf and Country Club and they think it's private, but we're always open to the public. We have the number one public golf course in the state of Illinois, Dubsdread. It was just got ranked recently again by Golf Week. Just came out yesterday, actually. So great golf facility. I love public golf. That's my background. I grew up in north central Indiana, played golf north of Indianapolis, played golf in high school, played golf at Butler University in Indianapolis collegiately, and then decided I had a couple choices as to whether to go to business school, go to graduate school, or get in the golf business. So I chose the golf business and moved to Florida and started as a golf assistant down there. And I've always been interested in public golf. I have worked as a general manager at a private club for about 9 years with Troon Golf. I worked for 12 years for Troon. Great company. They do not manage here, but I did really enjoy working for them and with them. They're based in Scottsdale, Arizona. But when I had an opportunity to come here, I'm closer to home. My wife's family is from Indiana. Our only daughter lives in Milwaukee. So geographically great location. The family here at Cog Hill, the Jemsick family, has been owners of this facility since 1951. And I've had some experience working with family-owned properties as well. So it was just a good fit for us. We've been here 3 years now, and we made some nice changes along with the Jemsicks, and it has been a blast. I really have enjoyed myself.
So being in golf in Florida myself now with the automation systems we're setting up, what's the pace like? I'm always amazed at golf in Florida versus golf in the Midwest. Do you notice a difference as a general manager, or is it kind of the same industry, different location?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've worked in the state of Florida. Like I said, I started there. The last time I worked at a golf course in Florida was in 1990. So that was the start of my career. As a golf professional, we were dime a dozen down there. Everybody wanted to get in the golf business back in that time. So, but I worked at some great places. I started at Innisbrook. They have a tour event there on the Copperhead course. I started there in the business and worked some other really nice places. And I still love Florida. People always talk about where they would retire: Florida, Arizona. I'm a Florida lover. It has some pain points as far as the golf business is concerned, because you have a lot of senior golfers and all that. But I still love to go down there and play.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm always fascinated. I mean, I live on Bull Valley Golf Course, and I guess maybe it's a private club, and I kind of just see like how many people are out playing, and then I go to some of these clubs in Florida, and I'm like, holy cow. I mean, you really realize how many people love the game of golf. I mean, they buy houses to golf the rest of their life when they're down there,
right,
in retirement,
And it's slower in the summer, because the summer's so brutal
hot
down there, as you know.
Yeah. So what is it about the game of golf that you love? I mean, what is it that got you so passionate in golf and made you make the decision to get into golf and not, follow business or anything, stuff like that?
Well, growing up in Indiana, baseball is my first love. I still love baseball. Unfortunately, in Indiana, which is different than Illinois, the seasons are the same with golf. So at the high school level, you have to make a decision. Back then, they wouldn't let you play both sports, even if you were able to do that. So I had somebody introduce me to the game. It was a friend of my dad's. and it was just immediate love. I mean, I love the individual aspect of it. I love being outside. I love the fact you didn't have to run. Never been a big fan of running. uh, so yeah, I immediately fell in love with it. And then I played in junior golf tournaments in Indiana, played high school golf, had some success, and loved, I have learned now after 20 years of working as a general manager to learn to love the game, to play socially too, not competitively. Just go out with some friends, have a great time, have a beer, maybe have a cigar, enjoy my time out there, and not worry too much about what I shoot anymore. But there's just, I love the sound of the game. I love being outside. I love the feel of hitting a great golf shot. And watch it on television, taught my daughter to love the game. And so it's really been a kind of a lifelong love affair for me, for sure.
So, that brings me to an interesting question then. So, since you obviously love the game, does it get difficult sometimes because you're managing it's business and it's work, but then it's also something you're passionate about. Do you see that sometimes is those lines blurring, or is it what keeps you so passionate at work because you love the game? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's like, it's not like you're just doing it for a hobby,
No.
It's like, this is your life,
I have friends in the business who I think have grown to dislike the game because they've been in the golf business. Yeah. I think it's, that's probably true of a lot of things. You just have to kind of get your mind around that part of it. I always tell people I love to play golf elsewhere, not at the place I work, more than I'd like to play at the place I work, because then I can be a customer, I can be a golfer, I can get out and enjoy that part of it. But I still play here occasionally because I want to see the golf course and want to be out there a little bit. But it's definitely one of the dangers of the game. The Golf Digest did a great article on golf professionals and burnout, and how they get to feel about the game after a while they've been in the business. And I've always been lucky. I've always been good at separating my work life and my personal life. And I would always tell that to folks that are getting in this business, is they need to understand that you have to maintain that separation.
I think it's pretty cool. I heard you say you've got a daughter. We share that. I have a daughter. I have 3 stepsons also, but I have a daughter from my first marriage. And fortunately for her, we're passionate about the same thing, which is automation and robotics. So we get to work together. But you said you got your daughter into golf also then? So do you guys get to golf together a lot, or just whenever you have time? You said she's in Milwaukee, right?
She is, and she's working in real estate area in Milwaukee, but she played high school golf. And then she's the one that gets me out on the golf course here. She'll come down and play here on the weekends on her day off, and we'll go out and play. And that's just, to me, I love playing. My dad passed away last winter, but I love playing golf with him. He also played and took me out when he was younger. And I started playing golf with him when I was 10 or 11, 12 years old. So it's kind of a nice thing to be able to pass on. She's a great sports fan. She loves all sports. And I always tell fathers of daughters, I absolutely wouldn't change a thing, but I'm glad that I taught her to love some of the stuff that I love too. So.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Well, that's good. Great for you. So now you've been in golf then 30 plus years, right?
Correct. Yep.
If I did the math right. So what are some things that you've seen in the game, some challenges that the game has seen, and then some of the challenges it's overcome, and how the game overcame those challenges?
I mean, I think the biggest thing when people ask me that question is what's changed since I've been in the business, is that it's a business now. It's literally 100% a business. But when I started in the golf business, it was a kind of a niche sport. It was pre-Tiger. It was kind of private clubs and small public courses, and it hadn't seen its boom yet that it saw in the 90s essentially. And so it was different. It wasn't when you were managing or involved in management of the club, you weren't hit with the numbers as much. You weren't kind of using business metrics to determine how well you were doing. And it wasn't scrutinized as much, obviously, pre-social media and all that as well. So that part of the business has really changed. I think that in our area here, the biggest changes are going to come from, there's such a need for housing that a lot of golf courses are looking at selling their property to developers. And we're starting to lose some golf courses here locally that have been there a long time. And so that, economic pressures go one way or the other. And golf has had a nice boom during the COVID time. There's no doubt about that. But still, there's a lot of money involved in property valuations and development. And that's going to be I think one of the struggles for golf in the future is just how to maintain enough profitability and ability to run your business and not kind of succumb to the value of your property, particularly in populated areas like we are here at Cog Hill.
Yeah, and that's something I never thought about. Now, is that something that you see affecting public courses more than private? Because like when I think of private courses, they're surrounded by homes. So it probably
Correct.
doesn't affect the private course the same way as it would a public, right?
Well, it hasn't here locally, yeah, but there have been some in Illinois. There've been some private clubs that struggled pre-COVID, and they ended up selling because they just couldn't make it financially. It's not a secret that for 10 or 15 years there were fewer golf courses open than closed, and so we had what we call a net negative as far as number of golf courses. But that was a lot kind of a market correction too. For a while, there were too many golf courses built in the 90s for the golfers that there were. So it's, we're changed by the economics of it more than I think when I first started in the golf business. We weren't overbuilt then, and we weren't striving to be this big for-profit entity that some of the golf facilities are trying to be now.
Yeah. Well, no, this is great. See, that's why I love doing podcasts, because you learn things from them that, you wouldn't even think about as somebody that's not in the business. But you bring up a good point of, when it boomed, everybody wants to get into it, and the people that the clubs or the courses, public courses that were offering a value, made it through those times, and the ones that had less value didn't make it.
Right.
The market basically made the decisions of who should exist and who shouldn't. So now that's happened, and the market kind of corrected itself for the courses that should exist and the ones that didn't. Do you see, and now that the boom happened after COVID, do you see more people are coming back into golf? I'm interested in your perspective on that too, because I feel like golf was a perfect social distance game, and I just wonder now if more people are getting involved maybe in the past 5 years, versus 5 years ago.
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, I always recount the conversation I had with the family, the president of Jemsick Golf, who I report to directly. Her name is Catherine Jemsick. As the COVID pandemic was starting, we were having these conversations on who are we going to lay off, who can we keep? We didn't know what was going to happen. All of a sudden, COVID became this boom thing for golf. And so I think ultimately, in answer to your question, we picked up some new golfers. We had some other golfers play more, or they came back out and revisited the game. And so it was a perfect storm. I mean, truthfully, like you said, they had to get outside. It was their best option to get outside where they could social distance from people. The golf industry did some things to help themselves on that front, which they don't often do. And so it was, and it's really kept itself up to this point. But all the industry talk is how we keep a hold of these folks who came out and played more or revisited the game, and how do we get the 20 and 30 and 40-year-old people to make golf a part of the fabric of their sporting life, things that they need to do. So that's kind of our focus now is in addition to spending some money on some upgrades and some deferred maintenance that a lot of golf courses couldn't do back when things were a little more tight. So, and we're definitely doing that here at Cog Hill. We're just trying to get our, for lack of a better word, get our ducks in a row, get some things fixed and maintained and ready to go for the future. And that's going to help us as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to golf courses, and what we do with automating them, it's a perfect time to give them the facelifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like what I always think it's interesting, when you look at the hotel industry, Hilton's, Marriott's, they're constantly changing the face of their
Right.
Hotels, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, one of the things I try to talk to clubs about, especially private clubs, because private clubs sometimes can get stuck in their old ways, in my opinion,
Yes.
is you have to realize that younger generations want to see that technology, which is one of the things that, I see, like Top Tracer. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll be out and I see Top Tracer, and we'll kind of get into that and see what you think about Top Tracer at your club. Is you can bring small kids there, and they can play, what's that, Go Fish or
Go
whatever,
fish.
and
Yep.
you don't even have to be great. the
Right.
parents, I literally watch the parents like hit buttons to make the kids think they're doing good, but nobody wants to do something, especially young people, that's so hard they can't succeed. Now
Right.
here's technology keeping them interested and they're swinging a club. But would you agree with that in what I'm seeing?
Definitely. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, green, what I call green grass golf courses, which is playing the holes and playing regular golf, had a moment when couldn't really decide if it was going to embrace this technology, embrace Top Tracer, more entertainment golf. I mean, there's virtual golf you can play on there. There's Go Fish. There's practice mode. There's it's closest to the pin, and to us, it's just kind of been a supplement. I mean, we added Top Tracer on a trial basis back in 2019, December of 2019, because we have heated bays, and we had 21 at that time, and immediately everybody saw, well, this is a good idea. Yeah, people loved the connection to their phone. They had the app on there. They could record. When you go do a practice session, it holds all that stuff in there for you forever, so you can go back and look at it and compare it to your next practice session. It just exploded. I mean, it made our range business almost a viable standalone business when it wasn't previously. So questions are asked, like, do you think those people are ever going to come play your golf course? Or there are people who just come and do Top Tracer, and if they are just doing Top Tracer, we want to gather their business because they're hitting golf balls, right? And they're having a beer and they're having some food, and we can't get stuck on the fact that we've got to make everybody a golfer on an 18-hole golf course. So I think it's been a huge plus for us, family business, practicers, entertainment wise. To me, that's our form of automation. I mean, it's kind of, there's an automated form to that's been hugely successful here.
So now that you have Top Tracer, on your driving range, how many balls did you used to probably hit in a day versus now that you have Top Tracer, how many balls are out on that range every day now?
Yeah, I mean, we have an inventory of over 200,000 golf balls. So we have multiple tens of thousands hit every day. And so there'll be days we go out there and it looks like the bottom of the driving range is white. So
yeah.
And we have, those days we didn't have 3 years ago. We're doing 3 times as much business on an annual basis as we did in 2019 prior to Top Tracer. And we just began to do hourly rentals like they do at Top Golf, where you can rent a room that we set up as a VIP room with special lighting and furniture and all this stuff. And you can rent that on the hourly basis and have your parties and all that kind of thing. So it's, I don't think we're done exploring all the different options there, but there's a ton of golf balls out there every day for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, well, and for a guy like me, I like to hear that because we have the picking solution, right? But it's also good to hear because having a lot of golf balls out there means people are at the facility, like you said, they're buying drinks and they're there and they're swinging a club. And I see, like, when I'm on the courses and people have Top Tracer, especially when you have the bays, if there's rain or if they had a scheduled round of golf and then they get there, at least they have something to do. If they're waiting for the rain delay or if the course is too wet to play, then there's that. So I mean, do you think that helps you keep the course playable also? Have you ever thought about making those decisions? Say, it's too wet today, but you can do this.
Well, I haven't seen that so much from a golf course standpoint, but let's go back to the practice tees. The grass tees that we used to have on the driving range. People used to get really mad when you closed that down because it was too wet. Oh, you mean you can't hit on the grass? They literally don't care now because they're hitting on the mats with Top Tracer. So it allows us to keep that grass tee. And right now, literally, we only have it open on the weekends to hit off the grass for the golfers who are playing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the rest of the time they're on the mats with Top Tracer. So I think it's helped our condition of our grass tees on our driving range. But also, the kind of the flip side of your question is, does it allow people to play on more marginal times? Absolutely. I mean, in the winter, our winter business has really increased because people can be under a heater, but hitting a real golf ball, not in a dome or one of our competitors nearby is a dome, but they get to hit a real golf ball, show it on Top Tracer, and they're outside, but they're warm enough to be able to not have to wear a winter jacket. So it's a lot of stuff like that.
So for the people that'll listen to this that don't experience snow like we do in here in Illinois, so what do you do then though? Like I always want, so do the balls just sit out there until you get a thaw and then you go pick them all up? Is
Yeah,
that why you have so many in inventory? You just know that you'll get them out in spring, or what?
that's a good catch. That's basically what's happening. Although we do have some new ideas for the upcoming winter of just trying to kind of get out and push snow. Just when we first get a snowfall, push everything off to the side, get a big snow blower, get everything kind of hard and packed, and we can still pick golf balls if the surface doesn't have like a 1 or 2 inch snow on it. If we can pack it down, then we can actually pick golf balls. So it's a little bit of both, but it is why we've had to increase our inventory. If you get a winter with a big snow cover for 2 months or something, you're going to go through a lot of golf balls.
Yeah, I always, one of those like hindsight's 2020 things, but like when you set it up, like if they like literally could somehow figure out a way to like warm the turf underneath,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they would just melt the snow there,
Mm-hmm.
or like, because even like Top Golf with their AstroTurf, and it's like I wonder the same thing with them, but if they just heated that concrete underneath, because it's just
Right,
turf on concrete there.
right,
But see, these are all the things that come up in the future. It's like
right.
you start doing this, and then you're like, okay, this is a viable thing. We got to figure out what's a golf ball cost right now? Probably 50. I mean, you're buying a ton, but it's probably at least 50 cents a ball, I would think, for a dry. We don't have to talk pricing that, but you start looking at the price of the balls
Yeah,
versus the other
yeah.
price, you might just be better off just having more balls still.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we're kind of straddling the fence on that. We're just making sure we have enough inventory to make it through for 6 weeks if we get stuck with a lot of snow cover. But then it's our problem is a lot of times when it gets too wet, you can't take the picker out. You got there's all kinds of kind of real world concerns that we have for the range business. But the nice part about it is it's shown a great propensity for demand, and people really like today. I'm sure if I looked at it right now, that nearly every bay would be full right now, and it's in the middle of the day and the middle of the week. So it's been and you provided some value to the golfer with the Top Tracer technology. I mean, that's the other thing. Does it cost us? Yeah, it costs us a monthly charge to pay for them per bay that we pay to Top Tracer, but we more than make up our our cost to them. And the other part I haven't even mentioned yet is the family here. The Gem Six are well known in the state of Illinois for all of their programs for growing the game and trying to get the access to the game of golf to as many golfers as they can. So it also fits really nicely in with that mission too.
yeah, so speaking of growing the game and new generations coming in, so how does first of all, are the younger generation of workers, like how do they react to having a Top Tracer there? Do they like to see the evolution, or do they, do you see
Oh
the same buy-in from them?
yeah, absolutely. No, they're the ones who are driving, who think it's cool. I mean, we have our employees are allowed to go down and get a discounted range balls on Top Tracer, and they're down there all the time. So they as that generation loves everything that has to do with technology much more than my generation. But you will find, there are people like me who embrace the stuff when it comes out, and I want to be one of the first people of my generation to know about what's out in technology and what's available. And you will find some people like that as well. And for us, it's across the generations in golf. I mean, I go over there, I go out there and I'll see 4 70-year-old guys playing a virtual game of golf at Top Tracer and sitting at the table and having a beer. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So do you, in the 30 years you've been in golf, do you think it's easier for you to get an employee in the game of golf right now, or do you think it's more difficult for golf to get employees there at the
Well,
golf course?
in this labor market, I mean, right now in the last 6 to 12 months, it's much more difficult now, but that's just kind of across the board. That's not just in the golf business.
Yeah.
But I think it's, our problem in the golf business has been pay. We ask the assistant pros, which I was one when I started out, to, ultimately we ask them to work 60 or 70 hours a week for less than they can go somewhere else and work. And that's a tough one. And the PGA of America, of which I'm a member, understands that's a concern. And I think it's going to be generationally something that is kind of remains to be seen. because there are tons of assistant openings right now in the state of Illinois. And you'll notice, though, that some of the base pricing for the beginning of those jobs has started to creep up because they have to compete. So historically, we used to just work people to death for next to nothing. That was what the golf business was known for. And then, later on, you'll get a good job and be able to make a living. That's not going to work for this generation.
Well, it sounds like they're relying on the love for the game to keep you there, because it's well, I'm not making what I want to make, but I do love golf and I love the people, so I'll stay. That's right. That it's probably how it's happened as long as it has. But this is what excites me about automation. Because people always say to a guy like me, like, "Oh, Joe, it's great what you're doing, but you're taking people's jobs." And I always like to think that it frees up money. It's like, as we look at the future and the ability to start automating, things in the game of golf. Now maybe that pro or that assistant can actually start to make more money because you don't have somebody just kind of there existing, like watching a golf ball or picking a golf ball up, and then it leaves more space for it to be a career versus just a temporary gig. That's my thought. I mean, what are your thoughts on something like that?
I mean, my degree was in economics in college. I'd still follow it very closely. I still think that people who feel like automation steals jobs aren't watching things very closely, and they sure haven't been. They sure haven't been in an Amazon warehouse or a car factory or anything else in the last 25 years. And so they just don't understand the nature of capital and labor and what companies are going to spend their money on. I mean, I don't believe that capitalism is 100% perfect as a system, but if people are buying into it, then they should expect companies to try to find ways to do jobs in an automated way, and that's just there's a profit and financial incentive for them to do so. But the other note of it is that you're right. It allows us to spend time doing things that we feel like are more critical and require more human interaction to the job than some of these other things that automation can do. And that's a big part for the golf industry too.
Well, especially in today's world, people really, I mean, the people that can provide great customer service, especially in the day of, Google and all the different ways to report an experience, right? The places that provide the best customer experience get the best reviews. Right. So that feedback loop just keeps coming and coming and coming. So, what I've always said to clubs that I'm talking automation about, they'll be like, well, I don't want to, I mean, if I do this, what am I going to do with that person that was picking it, assuming that they're not short people, right? But then I say, well, make them customer facing, let them spend time with the customer, ask the customer if they need more golf balls, ask the customer if they need a drink, ask the customer how they're doing today at the course. Now that there is something for those people to do, and it's better for the game and the feel of the game,
Correct. So. Yeah, and we rely in the golf business, not just at Cog Hill, we rely a lot on seasonal employees, and that season has shortened up. These folks want to start work in June and want to leave in the middle of August. These high school and college people. And then the seniors, we have a lot of seniors and retirees, and they want to play golf and they want to not. They're retired, but they have a job at our place, so they don't want to work all the time. So there's a lot of pressures on the labor end of ours for ways that we could use automation. And when I saw, that you were doing this podcast, we're the kind of business where, as I said to you before, we'd love to mow greens, we'd love to mow roughs, we'd love to mow fairways. We'd like to pick a huge amount of golf balls a day. With automation, there's a lot of things we'd like to be able to do. We're not quite there at our scale yet, but I'm very interested to see how it moves and see, how it becomes more useful in the golf industry.
Yeah. Well, and so like I always tell people, so personally for me, I feel the range picking cutting solution, I believe actually is there. Now it's there because of the way the model I created with it, which is subscription versus just direct purchase. But the more people use the things that exist, the more the manufacturers can learn from that, because all these systems are reporting back. So you take a company like Echo, it's all their robots are connected. It's like when you say, yes, we'd love to mow our fairways, we would love to do everything we can do. My big thing to tell people like yourself is, okay, but start, if people start with what exists, these manufacturers not only can pay for the ROI they have out for the current solution or systems, but they're gathering data in detail to make those other things better.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really passionate about, is to not try to put something someplace. Like right now, if you said to me, Joe, can you try a fairway? I'd say, let's try a driving range.
Yeah. Right.
Because that's something where nobody cares about no patterns. Nobody cares about that. All they care about, it's like playing Hungry Hungry Hippo. The more golf
Right.
balls are out there, the faster they're going to pick.
And as you know, Cub Cadet came out with a solution, a greensboard solution a couple of years ago. I don't think it got widely picked up because I think frankly, it had some issues.
Yeah.
But there's people working on it. There's certainly people working on spraying, chemical spraying, automated in that way. So I mean, it's going to happen. Once again, I always use the word scale at Cog Hill because we're just we're 4 times everybody else's business, 4 times as much mowing, 4 times as many golf balls, and so it's one of the things where we're waiting. We've demoed the Echo machine, so we know what it does, what it looks like, and so we're bought into the idea. It's just a matter of time, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Well, one of the things that I think really helps, and this not the whole. I want to be clear. I'm going to say this, and then we're going to move on because it's not why I'm doing the podcast. But the big thing that this is why I got into the space. Because like when I'll hear people like you say, "Yeah, we demoed the Echo machine." I know you demoed it with Echo, right?
Right.
But I always say we're the bridge between manufacturer and end user. So like for me, like I'm sure if Bull Valley Golf Course or Ibis Club, because Ibis Club is hitting about 60,000 balls a day down at Ibis Club, they've got 4 pickers, 2 putters. I am sure that if Ibis Club just tried a unit from Echo, they probably wouldn't still be using it. Because when there's a problem with our system, we show up, we fix it, we get them different units. So then it's like, then it is viable, and I mean, I've even had it where I show up at Bull Valley and I'll be like, I'll have one of my people hop on your picker and I'll pick the golf balls because we're supposed to be doing it. So, that's kind of the difference. But that's what's going to happen in automation. It's not only going to be the equipment that changes. There's going to be service providers like myself that pop up and almost just become your subcontractor, and that is the big thing that I'm passionate about to catapult this industry, is let manufacturers be manufacturers and let service companies be service customer driven and kind of bridge the gap. So you can run your golf course, I can run my automation business, and then I deal with the manufacturer. But does that sound different to you?
Yeah, no. I mean, we're using a subscription company right now. There's no equipment involved in it, but to rake bunkers. Locally, there's a guy here who started a company, and he will go around and rake your bunkers on a golf course for a set amount of dollars per month or per time. And we did the math and we figured out from our standpoint, it's going to work out better for us. So we certainly are not against the subscription model. It's just a matter, like you said, it's a matter of what service you get there and how things work out for you and how the math works out. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so to move on from that, because we can talk about this stuff off podcast. So then, I mean, is there any other things you do for recreation besides golf? It's like I think we've learned about you and the game of golf. We've kind of talked about the game of golf, but I always like to get to know, like I said, a little more about the person behind what that screen. So besides golf, what's other things you do for fun, or is that about it for you? You're happy with that?
No, I mean, my wife and I are travel. I mean, we travel. We spend some time in the Midwest and some different places. We have friends, and we love Door County, which I don't know if you've been up there in Wisconsin before, but that's one of our favorite places in the Midwest. So we get up there. We have friends that have a place there actually. So we get around. We like that. We're going to South Haven, Michigan, here on Father's Day weekend, and for a family get together. So we're big family people, both my wife and I. But I love movies. I love fiction. I read a lot of fiction. and I love sports. So those things tend to keep me, along with my job, tend to keep me plenty plenty busy.
All right. So, I always say like podcasts, it's like you realize you become instant best buddies with somebody. So we're at Door County. Do you guys go?
Our friends have a place in Egg Harbor. So we usually,
Okay.
somewhere between Egg Harbor and Sister Bay, we spend our time on that side. Although I have a friend in Bailey's Harbor on the other side. So we're pretty educated Door County people, and we love it up
Okay.
there. Yeah.
So I'm building a house in Door County right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And actually it's right on the water. It's like the George McKinley State Park. There's a big quarry. That's the park. So like it's by Sturgeon Bay. It's in
Yeah. Okay.
Cesspool.
Yeah.
And
I know the best boys. Yeah.
So I finally pulled the trigger. I bought a lot right on the water. And I'm building a house covered in grass. I also do these green magic homes. And so
cool.
it's like a hobbit house, which fits in because in the culture up there, like they had, if you look this up in Door County, they had these little like hobbit mounded houses up there way back. The Indian, like people that used to live up there, that's how it was. So it's one of the things that made me fall in love with Door County because the moss, like in Bailey's Harbor, like all the rocks are covered in that moss. And
what's the restaurant? Al
Johnson's.
Al Johnson's has the grass on the top and the goats on the roof. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I love Door County, and actually, if you're up there, and I'm going to extend this offer and truthfully say it, like I have a boat I keep up in Quarter Deck, the Skipper Buds.
Okay.
And so yeah, I try to go up there. I'm actually going up there this weekend. So
no, we don't go as much as we'd like to go, but we go a couple times during the summer. Like I said, we have really good friends from Green Bay, from the time we worked there in Green Bay, and they have a place in Egg Harbor, so we go visit them. But we like to stay in Ephraim. Sometimes we stay and we think that's a cool little place. But I always tell people who've not been there, it's the Cape Cod of the Midwest, right? I mean, it's it just has that look and feel to it, and it's an awesome place. Yeah.
Well, on the first time I went, I told my mom and dad, I said, because my family didn't come from my dad was union laborer, and my mom worked for the city of Elgin, and my dad ended up at the city of Elgin eventually, anyways. But I said, we never took family trips, but we could have driven 3.5 hours and been in like paradise because it is so weird. I mean, when you drive there, and you'll understand, it's like you're just driving through farmland, and then you hit Door County, and it's like somebody flips a cool switch. It's like that moss-covered rocks and cliffs, and you're surrounded by water. Right? It's just the most amazing, like 40 miles.
Yeah, they closed one of our favorite places up there. Did you ever go to Fred and Fuzzy's right before you get on the Sister Bay? It was a little outdoor restaurant right on the bay, and it was open for many years. And finally, COVID unfortunately put the stake in the heart. But it was one of our, sit out there by the lake, have something to eat and drink. It was just an awesome place. But we'll go up there as often as we can.
Yeah. So. Well, anyways, so it's pretty cool we have that in common. And now people, when they hear that Door County is going to have an influx of people now,
Yeah.
Hearing you and I rant and rave about Door County.
Yeah. If you like Midwest nature, you cannot go wrong up there. And like I said, there's lots of things to do too.
So do you golf when you're up there, by the way? Because there are some golf courses up there. It's perfect weather.
I have. I actually started with Troon, a short little stint at Horseshoe Bay, which is right there on, before you get to Egg Harbor. Or after no, it's before you get to Egg Harbor, but great golf course. That's an 18-hole course. I played a couple other courses on the peninsula, and so we have played. I like the peninsula golf course right there before you get into Ephraim. That's really pretty. There's some good spots out there, and so we played some golf. Whenever we have a family trip or whatever, we have 8 or 12 or 16 people go out and play golf. So we do that, and we just kind of lounge around, and it's always a great trip.
Some other great courses you played on when you travel that maybe I haven't heard of that you love for one reason or another.
I mean, I love the Kohler courses. I really like Whistling Straits. I think that's a beautiful piece of property. And I played Erin Hills not too long ago. That's Michael Herdzon design. I really like that golf course. I really thought it was very playable, but a lot of fun. Probably the course that I point to that is a place I worked early on in the business is the Quarry course at Black Diamond in Florida. It's near Ocala. It's a private club. There's actually 36, maybe 45 holes there now. but that was the original 18-hole golf course there. I worked for a head pro who had opened the course, and it's a Tom Fazio course, and it's unbelievable. I mean, there's 5 or 6 holes around the rim of a quarry there, alligators. It's Florida all over the place. It's really nice. So yeah, I mean, I love playing great golf courses. I don't get a chance to travel and do that a lot, but there've been some cool places I've had a chance to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always ask, because like, so for me, I feel like I'm getting into the game of golf, but in a weird way, because I'm the automation guy coming into golf. But I always hear how you're even saying, like, it's this person designed it or is designed by that
Right.
person. And I always just, I think it's unique because, like, so for me, my favorite place, I love the water. So if I'm going to be on a golf course, I want to be on a golf course where there's water, but I always think people's opinion on what makes a great design or not, if you're in the game of golf, I think it's based on golf. And if you're just someone like me that likes the scenery of golf, then it's different, right? It's different opinion.
Well, I kind of forgot. I mean, I also love Sea Island, Georgia. There's an old designer golf course right on the water there. And if you love water and golf, you love that place. It's kind of old plantation too. The buildings are, and it's a beautiful place. So yeah, I think, to me, I've got this book on my desk. It's called The Architects of Golf. It's the Bible of who built what golf course, So that I'm into that stuff too. But there's there's so many beautiful places that I'll never get a chance to play. It's just, I envy these guys who can just travel around the country and play great courses all the time.
So how do you think, I mean, you said like some courses didn't survive. So what do you think? What do you think Cog Hill? I mean, what do you think was their recipe for success to make it through and to still be growing the way you are? Is it just the great leadership? Is it the fact they're family owned?
I think it's part of it. This family is as loyal to their customers as any business I've worked for, and that goes a long way. I mean, I'm kind of here to make business decisions for them, and sometimes they'll push back with me to say, well, I don't think the customers are going to like this. And I'm like, well, you have to respect that. Yeah, I mean, that's not what you hear in the business all the time, right? I'm always pushing back. Well, hey, we're going to make money. We got to change this. We got to be a little bit more aggressive, And to me, I think that's part of the reason they're here so long. In longevity in a family-owned business is tough. This is 3rd generation now, and so Catherine's that's all she's ever done is work in the golf business. So she knows the business really well. In addition to, they have a facility in Newnan, Georgia that they own. Atlanta suburbs, and then they manage a course up in Mundelein, Illinois, Pine Meadow. So they've got more than just this facility. This place is located really well. It's close to the city, but not too close, and a lot of development. A lot of homes have been built, nearby here, and it's so I mean, they've got a lot of things going for them. But I think foremost is they love the golf business and they love golfers. And that goes a long way.
Yeah. So if I always like to ask, like, are there people that you'd like to recognize as a mentor for you? Not now seeing where you started and where you are now. Is there anybody you'd like to kind of give thanks to or shout out as far as a mentor for you in the game and in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a gentleman that I worked for at 3 different golf courses in Florida. Started out in Citrus or in Plantation Golf Resort in Crystal River, Florida, and his name is Jim Cochee, and he won't be listening to this podcast. He's not that kind of technological guy, but he's still around, still kicking. Was always very kind to me, and then I lived in an apartment with a gentleman who's now the director of golf at Disney World. His name is Bruce Gerlander, and he's a great guy. And I always mention those 2 guys as guys who taught me a lot about the business and helped me out when I was starting out. And they're both, they're both involved in the golf business in some way. And it's just, kindness goes a long way. And I would say more than anything, they were kind to me as a young person, learning things, and they found a place for me to be useful.
That's awesome. See, and I love it because part of the reason I have a podcast is to mentor people, even my younger people working for AOS now, to kind of get them into my mind and kind of learning and growing in the business. And Chris, is my producer. So Chris, you maybe found by out that section since the guy won't be listening to the podcast. Maybe we can email to Troy, and Troy, you can email him
Right.
your mentor recognition. I'm sure he'd like it.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I'm assuming if you went back to your 20-year-old self, you seem to me like a guy with no regrets. You wouldn't make any changes. That's an assumption. Would you stay on the same path you were on, exactly where you did, or is there anything you'd do different?
Yeah, I mean, I think you would agree that luck has a lot to do with it. I mean, I married the right person. She's always, oh, there's another place you can go to and different place you can work. Yeah, let's go. That's always been her thing. So I've been a few different places, and I always remind people, not because I got asked to leave, uh, but I don't know. I don't, you never know how it's going to turn out. I certainly wouldn't change anything for me, but I think I would have maybe gotten involved in this end of a little bit earlier. And I was a head golf professional for 20 some years. And at that level, sometimes you don't get involved in the business decisions and some of the things that really affect the business. And I've loved that a lot. So I think that's something but I was, not super old when I got involved as a general manager. So it's hard to do that to get involved that in your 20s. But I always tell guys in the golf business who I talk to is like, gather as much information as ask questions and get as curious as you can, somebody can tolerate, because there's a lot of things to know.
Do you think it's your education that's made you a great general manager, or is it just the fact that you were observant and learned and were kind of a student of not only the game, but of the industry, and just learned along the way? Because I'm always interested. Like, I mean, I can tell you, I'll take the lead personally for me. Everything that's made me the business owner and the numbers guy that I am today is just realizing, like, just learning from my environment. Is that kind of what's your feeling on that? And your
Yeah, I mean, I know colleges are struggling now with the tuitions being so high, and people, and it wasn't the case when I was in college. So I just absolutely loved my college time, and I felt like I got something from it. Did I get the kind of dollar amounts that I would have to pay to go to that university now? It's hard to say that. That's just so much money, and it burdens you for so long. But I think the biggest thing in this business, and yours probably too, is, do you like interacting and working alongside people? Are you any good at it? And do you actually enjoy it? And is there a way where you can make them, when you're a general manager or you're in charge of business, can you make them feel like they're working with you as opposed to working for you? You're gonna do a lot better. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of that learning that's available now, leadership stuff, and that just wasn't even talked about when I was starting the business. There were no leadership classes. That wasn't even a thing. That wasn't that long ago. But now there's a lot of stuff that's available to people that they can really find out what's important to be in a management position.
there are certain, like, talking about leadership and stuff, and we always talk about core values. So like, are you the person that identifies like values or the direction of the course, or is that still kind of in the being family owned? Does that come from management, or do they give you the ability to identify like that direction with the team?
That's a good question, but you have to be on the same page. I mean, I've been in places where my beliefs did not mix with the management or the board of directors or whatever the situation might be, and that's not a tenable situation for very long. So when you're lucky enough to find owners who feel the same way that you do, then you can do your thing. You can kind of make some impact and make a difference. And the nice thing about the family here is they have employees who've been here. I've only been here 3 years. There's people who've been here for our two co-chefs, because this place is so busy in food and beverage. We have two head chefs. They've both been here since 1979, 1980. And they are the kind of people we're talking about. They love working with people. They're kind. They don't lose their stuff when things don't go the way they're supposed to. And they're great mentors. And to me, you got a little fortunate to, when you don't own a company and you're totally in charge of it, for those things to be meshed together a little bit. And so far that's been really good here. But I do think general managers always get an opportunity to steer the boat. I mean, you definitely have a chance to make your impact.
Yeah. No, that's great. It sounds like you're in a great place and you have a good fit. I can just tell by the way you answered the question. So
Mhm.
congratulations for that. So that being said, I kind of I'll say we're getting to a perfect point, I think, for us to leave it, because I think we've learned a lot about you and your background, but knowing where you're at and seeming to be happy, what do you want to be remembered for in your time, where you are or any of the places you've been, what do you as a person try to aspire to get people to think about once you're not in that position anymore?
Well, that's good. It's a legacy question, right?
Yeah, it is.
And
It
yeah.
was it was a question without me saying what's your legacy going to be.
Well, I truly believe that legacies, you're going to make your legacy about with the people you come in contact with, your family and with your kids. I don't look at it as much as a work thing. I really don't. I feel like, here in this position, I'm going to help Catherine Jemsick, cement her legacy. She's the third generation. Her grandfather, Joe Jemsick, is super famous. He's passed away now in the golf business in Chicago. I mean, and he's well known. He was well known nationally. So he was the one who started this thing. Her father, Frank, is still living. He's still on the property. People know Frank because he's on the first tee thanking people for playing here every day on the weekends. So she's got a legacy it's hard for her to cement, and she's female in a male dominated business. So I'd love to, in my time here, love to find a way for her to make, to make her legacy here. And I think that's part of, what I see, what I do. That's how I look at it. Is I'm a support person. I support the staff, I support the owners, and I find ways for them to get things done. To me, that's what a general manager does. So, and then the other stuff is, if you don't leave a legacy on the people, your friends, your family, your other stuff, then you probably not done anything very terrific. so yeah, that would be more important to me for sure.
Well, it sounds to me like they're lucky to have you as a general manager. I think that your answer was great, and being a father of a daughter, and you being the father of a daughter, I think it's awesome that in your answer too, recognizing the male-dominated industry
Yeah.
that golf is, to let a female, blaze her own trail and you help and assist her to do that. I think that's great also. Um, so yeah, I mean, all in all, I hope you enjoyed being on my show as much as I enjoyed having you on Automation Nation. But I think that's a perfect spot to leave it. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah. Great surprise. I mean, like I said, I appreciate getting the invite, and it was nice to, I love to do these. I did a little podcast series of my own during COVID, and I had some friends of mine, and I came on and did it, and we kind of did it through Cog Hill's social media. We pushed it out there. Didn't get a bunch of listeners, but I enjoyed, like you said, enjoyed the conversations. I had some talks with some people that I wasn't going to get in front of during that time, and some people that are in the industry. So I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm sure we will see each other at some point in the future. We'll run into each other.